Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's having a great day. Time for another round of Bible trivia. First, I got to ask you a question. What is the difference between a teacher and a train? Well, one says spit out your gum, but the other says chew, 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 chew. Oh, that's ridiculous. Okay, what happens once in a minute and twice in a moment, but never in a decade? This isn't a joke. This is a riddle, really. I'll say it one more time. What happens once in a minute and twice in a moment, but never in a decade? It's the letter M. Yeah, and you may have heard that before. If you haven't, you probably had no idea what I was just talking about. But anyway, let's move on to our Bible trivia questions. I'm going to give you 10 questions that are worth a point apiece, and there's 2 bonus questions that are worth 3 points apiece. And you can choose to answer them. If you do answer them, I'll just say this, I hadn't mentioned this in a while. If you try to answer them and you get them wrong, you lose 3 points. So you need to keep that in mind. But you have a chance of making 16 points altogether. So let's begin with question 1. How long were Daniel and his friends to be educated in the service of the king? Was it 3 years, 1 year, or 2 years? Daniel 1 and verse number 5 tells us that it was 3 years. Number 2, because Daniel didn't want to defile himself with the food of the king's table, what kind of food did he request? Unleavened bread, vegetables, or a lamb? Daniel 1, verse number 8, and also verse number 12 tells us that it was vegetables. In fact, some people go on what's called a Daniel's diet. You can look into that. I don't know much about it. I know it just mainly has to do with vegetables. Number 3, how long did Daniel ask to be served vegetables and water? Was it 7 days, 30 days, or 10 days? Daniel 1, verse 12 tells us that it was 10 days. Number 4, how did Daniel and his friends appear at the end of the 10 days? Weak and pale, but that's hard to say. Pale, but well fed, better and fatter. Daniel 1, verse 15 tells us the answer is better and fatter. Number 5, Nebuchadnezzar called the magicians, conjurers, and Chaldeans together to decipher what? His dreams, handwriting on a wall, or a scroll? Daniel 2, verses 1 through 2 tells us that it was his dreams. Okay, ready for your bonus question? What was the penalty for not being able to interpret the dreams? What was the penalty for not being able to interpret the dreams? Daniel 2, verse 5 tells us the answer was death. All right, let's move on to our next set of questions. First one is this. In the midst of a raging storm, what did the sailors do to Jonah? Killed him, threw him overboard, put him in the hold of the ship. Jonah 1, verse 15. I bet everybody got this right. Threw him overboard. Number 2, what happened to Jonah when he was thrown overboard? A fish swallowed him, he walked on water, or he sank? Well, Jonah 1, verse 17 tells us that a fish swallowed him. Number 3, what did the sailors do after throwing Jonah overboard? Had a feast, cried, or sacrificed to the Lord? Jonah 1, verse 16 tells us that they sacrificed to the Lord. Number 4, what did Jonah do while in the belly of the fish? Prayed, slept, or wept? Jonah 2, verse number 1 tells us that he prayed. Number 5, how long was Jonah in the belly of the fish? 1 day and 1 night, 2 days and 2 nights, or 3 days and 3 nights? Jonah 1, verse 17 tells us that it was 3 days and 3 nights. Now, of course, you might remember Jesus used the same reference to Jonah to indicate how long he was going to be in the grave, 3 days and 3 nights. All right, bonus. How did Jonah get out of the fish? How did Jonah get out of the fish? But Jonah 2:12 tells us the fish vomited him out onto the dry land. All right, I hope you had good success with that one. I bet you this last the last questions you probably did well on. Most people know the story of Jonah. Maybe you did okay on the other one as well. Maybe this will be one that you get all the answers right. Let me know down in the comments if you did. Have a great day.